The House Appropriations Subcommittee on Labor, Economic Development, and Lifelong Learning will come to order. Mr. Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Chair Snyder.
Here.
Representatives Martis.
Here.
Carter.
Here.
Liberati.
Here.
Hurry.
Here.
Farhat.
Here.
And McKinney. Van Workum.
Here.
Meerman.
Here.
Beeson.
Here.
And Alexander.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, a majority of members are present. You do have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Vice Chair Martis moves to approve the subcommittee meeting minutes from the meeting held on April 18th. Without objection, the minutes are approved. Representative Martis moves to adopt the House substitute for HB 5501H1, the fiscal year 24-25 Department of Lifelong Education, Advancement, and Potential Appropriations Bill. Mr. Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Chair Snyder.
Yes.
Representatives Martis.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Liberati.
Yes.
Hurry.
Yes.
Farhat.
Yes.
McKinney. Van Workum.
Yes.
Meerman.
Yes.
Beeson.
Yes.
Alexander.
Yes.
Chairman, you have a majority of members voting in the affirmative. Motion prevails.
Thank you, sir. At this time, I'd like to welcome Perry Zelak and Noel Benson from House Fiscal Agency to give an overview of the contents of the bill. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Perry Zelak, and with me is Noel Benson. And together we are the co-analysts for the Department of Lifelong Education, Advancement, and Potential. We will be reading from the House Fiscal Agency summary of the House Subcommittee Chair's recommendation to House Bill 5501, the fiscal year 2024-25 Department of Lifelong Education, Advancement, and Potential budget. Before we begin, instead of saying the mouthful of House Subcommittee Chair's recommendation, we will be saying either House or House proposal. And instead of using the full name of the department, we will use the more commonly used acronym of MyLeap. So starting on the table up top, and I will say as a new budget, there are some nice tweaks to this, and that there is no current year budget, so we are not comparing, we don't have a comparison to the enacted budget for the current fiscal year. But looking at the House column under fiscal year 25, the House has a proposed gross of $619.0 million, of which $184 million are general fund, general purpose, or GFGP, and $432.9 million is federal funding. There is also a full-time equivalent, or FTE, authorization of 313. Looking at individual line changes in comparison to the current fiscal year, I will start with item number 3 under the Office of Early Childhood Education and the Child Development and Care Subsidy Transfer. The House concurs with the Executive's transfer of $364.5 million gross, or $50.8 million of general funding, in transferring this from the Department of Education, or MDE, for the Child Development and Care Subsidy. Item number 4 concerns the child care provider rate increase. While the executive proposed a $37.9 million gross increase to increase hourly child care provider reimbursement rates by 10%, the House provides a $75.9 million gross, or $37.9 million GF increase to this provider rate to increase rates by 20%. Moving on to page 2, I'll point out item number 5 concerning Child Care Licensing Bureau transfer. The House does concur with the Executive's transfer of $25.0 million gross and authorization for 147 FTE positions from the Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs, or LARA, to the new MyLeap for this bureau. Item number 10 on the middle of the page concerns child care facility inspections. That while the executive proposed a $4.8 million federal and 30 FTE authorization, the House provides $806,000 of federal funding and 5 FTE authorizations. Item number 12 is a new item added by the House proposal concerning third shift worker child care pilot program, where the House provides $4.4 million gross or $336,000 of general fund for a pilot program that would expand child care providers for third shift workers. Moving on to page 3, I'll highlight item number 19, the out-of-school time administration. While the executive proposed a $366,000 general fund and 2 FTE authorizations to support this program, the House does not include either the FTE authorizations or the associated funding. Under the Office of Higher Education, item number 22 concerns the Michigan Reconnect program transfer. The House does transfer $61.5 million of general funding from the Department of Labor and Economic Development, or LEO, to MyLeap for the Michigan Reconnect program. Item number 23 is a new proposal added under the House budget, where the House provides $500,000 of general funding for the Hunger-Free Campus Grant Pilot Program, which is a 1-year pilot for Michigan State University and Northern Michigan University to reduce hunger on those campuses. Moving on to page 4, under one-time funding, I'll highlight item number 24 concerning the Michigan Center for Adult College Success. The House provides $2.1 million of general funding for operation costs for that center, which works primarily with adult students looking to return to post-secondary education through the Michigan Reconnect program. And then finally, item number 25 concerning the Child Care Workers Subsidy Pilot Program. While the executive proposed a $60.0 million general fund of one-time use to create a 3-year pilot program to provide child care workers with child care related subsidies, the House proposal does not include this. I'll now toss it over to Noelle Benson to cover boilerplate changes.
Thank you, Perry, and thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members, for having us today. Looking further down on page 4, we have sections 201 through 222 of the standard boilerplate. These are common to all budgets and have been brought in with minor technical revisions. Looking then on page 5 at section 401, this is for family and community engagement. This was brought in from the MDE budget, section 1014. The executive added language that it requires MyLeap to establish or partner with family engagement centers across the state. The House proposal concurs with this. In section 705, this was brought in from section 935 in Treasury. The executive added language that requires dual enrollment payments to be distributed as provided under the Post-Secondary Enrollment Options Act and the Career Technical Preparation Act. The House proposal concurs with this addition. Section 706 is new boilerplate language added by the House proposal. It requires MyLeap to implement a reporting structure for participating institutions on 4-year completion rates for Reconnect students, annually report completion rates, and establish various metrics for institutions based on 30%, 50%, or 75% milestone completion rates. Institutions that fail to improve on this will be placed on probationary status and would have the need to create a corrective action plan. On the next page, on page 6, we have section 707, which is new language to support the Hunger-Free Campus Grant Pilot Program that Perry just mentioned. This distributes funding to Michigan State University and Northern Michigan University and requires them to establish a hunger task force to designate a staff member to inform students on SNAP enrollment opportunities, provide at least one campus food pantry, and develop a meal credit donation or food voucher program. Section 1002 was brought in from MDE and lists the provider rates for the Child Development and Care Program. The House concurred with this and also added new language that increases the subsidy rates by 20%. Section 1005 was new in the exec rec and increased provider rates by 30% for children who are part of the foster care program. The House concurred with this change. Section 1007 was also brought in from the MDE budget and requires an annual report for the Child Development and Care Program. The executive merged this with the former Section 1003 from the MDE budget, and the House concurred with this change. Section 1008 was for home visit program coordination that requires MyLeap to provide services to families for home visits. The exec brought this in from the MDE budget, and House concurred with the change. Same thing for Section 1009. This requires MyLeap to set the entrance threshold for the CDC program to 200% of federal poverty guidelines. The exec brought this in from the MDE budget, and the House concurred. Section 1011, same thing. It requires MyLeap to implement payments to providers based on enrollment rather than attendance. It's from Section 1011 in the MDE budget. The exec brought it over. House concurred. Section 1012 also was brought over from the MDE budget, requires MyLeap to work in collaboration with the DHHS to continue the network of infant and early childhood mental health consultation. Exec brought it over, and the House concurred. Section 1015 is new language for the third shift worker child care pilot program that establishes program eligibility and for third shift workers and the child care centers looking to expand or establish overnight child care. Section 1030 was brought in from Section 701 in the LEO budget and requires funding to be used to continue the Tri-Share Child Care Program, allows funding of new child care facilitator hubs, and requires new hubs to increase the number of participating counties or serve statewide employers. Caps administration costs at $200,000. Finally, on page 7, we have new language in Section 1040, which is a Child Care Licensing Bureau report that requires the CCLB to report on a number of metrics around regulatory revenue and expenses, information on licenses received, approved, denied, and renewed, complaints received, investigated, and closed, and enforcement actions. And Section 1102 is one-time language for the Michigan Center of Adult College Success that states that the center has to use the funding to continue to improve adult post-secondary enrollment through the Michigan Reconnect program. We are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for HFA? Vice Chair Van Workum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you saw, there's a lot of transfers in this budget, and it's difficult to ascertain what was prior in a different department, and I appreciate kind of going through this. How we know that the FTEs are accurate or haven't been increased with these major shifts from this budget, from the past budgets?
So I'm also the analyst of the MDE budget, and so I have been able to compare, and where we say in the summary that it is a transfer and we show the number of FTEs that transferred over, that is the same number of FTEs that was in MDE that is now in MyLeap. If there were additional FTEs added, we listed that as a separate section within the summary.
Thank you. Any further questions for HFA on MyLeap? Excellent. Seeing none. I appreciate your presentation this morning. At this time, we will take amendments on House Bill 5501. First amendment from Representative Van Workum. Would you like to speak to your amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In fact, I think I'll speak to all of the amendments if that's okay. Save us maybe
All
a
three?
little time.
That's fine.
Because they all are pretty much in conjunction with each other. This is a continuation from conversations we've had in the past as it relates to child care and trying to establish a grant program for construction. As we all have heard through different testimonies, this is an area that we are lacking, and we need more child care facilities, and the costs continue to rise. So this is an attempt to reduce some money that is already allocated and finding some dollars to create this program. And then the one creates the grant program, and the other is the boilerplate associated with the program. I move my amendment.
Representative Van Workum moves Amendment 1, or amendment identified as Amendment 1. Clerk, would you please take the roll?
On amendment number 1 to House Bill 5501H1, Chair Snyder.
No.
Representatives Martis?
No.
Carter? No. Liberati?
No.
Curry?
No.
Barhead?
No.
McKinney?
No.
Van Workum?
Yes.
Meerman?
Yes.
Beeson?
Yes.
And Alexander.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 no votes, 4 yea votes. The amendment fails.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Rep. Van Workum, do you move your second amendment?
On the question of amendment number 2 to House Bill 5501H1, Chair Snyder.
No.
Representatives Martis?
No.
Carter? No. Liberati?
No.
Curry?
No.
Barhead?
No.
McKinney?
No.
Van Workum?
Yes.
Meerman?
Yes.
Beeson?
Yes.
And Alexander.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, you have 4 yea votes, 7 nay votes. The amendment fails.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Rep. Van Workum, do you move amendment number 3? The clerk will take the roll.
On the question of amendment number 3 to House Bill 5501H1, Chair Snyder.
No.
Representatives Martis?
No.
Carter?
No.
Liberati?
No.
Curry?
No.
Barhat?
No.
McKinney?
No.
Van Workum?
Yes.
Meerman?
Yes.
Beeson?
Yes.
Alexander.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, there are 4 yea votes, 7 nay votes. The amendment fails.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Representative Alexander wishes to offer amendment identified as amendment number 4. Do you wish to speak to your amendment? Thank you, Rep. Alexander. Mr. Clerk, would you please take the roll?
On the question of amendment number 4 to House Bill 5501H1, Chair Snyder.
No.
Representatives Martis?
No.
Carter?
No.
Liberati?
No.
Curry?
No.
Barhat?
No.
McKinney?
No.
Van Workum?
Yes.
Meerman?
Yes.
Beeson?
Yes.
And Alexander.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, you have 4 yea votes, 7 nay votes. The amendment fails.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Have a couple cards to read in support of House Bill 5501. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill, Jay Lyon from Swipe Out Hunger. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill, Wes Kim from the Food and Nutrition Association. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill, Sammy Vila from Refugee Club. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill, Olivia Heath from United for Latino Success. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill, Spencer Good, President of the Spartan Food Security Council. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill, Adam Kuffels, MSU student. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill, Ryan Smith, Michigan State University Students Hunger. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill, Linda, Yadaranez, we'll go with that. Michigan State University students. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill, Jacob Brandy from Michigan State. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill, Delaney Grant. And not wishing to speak in support of the bill, Madison Mogg, MSU student. Representative Martis moves to report House Bill 5501H1. And with that, clerk, would you please take the roll?
On the motion to report the House Substitute H1 for House Bill 5501 to the House Appropriations Committee, Chair Snyder.
Yes.
Representatives Martis.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Liberati.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
Farhat.
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes.
Van Workum.
Pass.
Bierman.
Pass.
Beeson.
Pass.
Alexander.
Pass.
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 yea votes, 4 abstentions. The motion prevails.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. At this time, Vice Chair Martis moves to adopt the H1 substitute for House Bill 5502, the fiscal year 24-25 Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity Appropriations Bill. Mr. Clerk, would you please take the roll?
On the motion to adopt the H1 substitute for House Bill 5502, Chair Snyder.
Yes.
Representatives Martis.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Liberati.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
Farhat.
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes.
Van Workum.
Yes.
Bierman.
Yes.
Beeson.
Yes.
And Alexander.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, you have 11 yea votes, 0 nay votes. The motion prevails.
All right, thank you. At this time, I think Marcus is going to head up to the testimony table to give an overview from House Fiscal Agency on the contents of the Leo budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. As Chair mentioned, Marcus Coffin with the House Fiscal Agency. Be speaking to the document that everyone should have, the House Fiscal Agency Summary and Analysis for the Labor and Economic Opportunity Budget. First, I'd like to draw your attention to the table at the top of page 1. Make a couple of quick notes. On the general fund row there, you'll note that the chair's recommendation totals $503.1 million general fund. The gross appropriation under the chair's recommendation totals $2.1 billion, and the FTE count under the chair's recommendation totals 2,667 FTE position, 0.5 FTE positions. Turning now to the itemized analysis below, on page number 1, a couple of notes I would like to make. Items 1, 2, and 4, you'll note, were executive recommendations that were included in the governor's proposed budget. The chair did not concur with the budget on including any of those items. You'll note that those are for the Michigan Innovation Fund, the Build Ready Sites Program, and the Michigan Marketing Initiatives. On item number 3, the Business Attraction and Community Revitalization item, the executive had included $20 million general fund one time for that item, and the chair's recommendation concurred on including that funding. Turning now to page number 2, a couple of notes I would like to make here. Items 5, 6, and 7 were also executive recommended items that were included for Going Pro, Talent Solutions, and New Michigander Immigration and Legal Services, respectively. The chair's recommendation did not concur on including any of those items, so they do not appear in the chair's budget. Turning now to items 10 and 11, the Arts and Cultural Grants and Community and Neighborhood Initiatives items. On the arts and cultural grants, the chair's recommendation concurs with the executive on including an additional $5.1 million of general fund for arts and cultural grants. $5 million of that is one-time general fund, and the other $50,000 is from private revenues. On item number 11, Community and Neighborhood Initiatives, the executive's recommendation had included $5 million of one-time general fund for grants to community and neighborhood organizations for programs and initiatives that would help foster strong communities. The chair increased the amount included for that item, and his recommendation includes $15 million of general fund one time for that purpose. I'd like to turn now to page number 4 in the document, which begins essentially the chair's one-time recommendations for the budget. So all of these items that will appear, items 24 through 54, are all one-time items. Item number 24, housing development projects. The chair's recommendation includes $150 million of one-time general fund to support Michigan's efforts to increase housing stock and affordability in the state. Item number 25, community museum grants. The chair's budget includes $12 million of general fund for grants to museums throughout the state. You'll notice there the allocation of those funds, with $6 million being dedicated to specific museums, and then the remaining $6 million being allocated for a first-come, first-served grant program for museums that support artistic, scientific, cultural, and technological exhibitions. Item number 26, community and fitness centers. The chair's recommendation includes $10 million of one-time general fund support grants for community and fitness centers. $2.5 million of that would be allocated for the Tri-Cities YMCA, and the remainder would be open to a grant program for fitness and community centers across the state. Item number 27, the ethanol 15 rebate program. The chair's recommendation includes $9 million of general fund for rebates to motor fuel establishments that sell blended fuels containing ethanol 15. The rebate under the program would be set at 5 cents per gallon of blended fuel sold. And again, that's $9 million of one-time general fund. Item 28, Symphony Orchestra competitive grants. The chair's recommendation includes $6 million of one-time general fund for grants to symphony orchestras throughout the state that have a demonstrated financial need for state support. Turning to page number 5, item 29, the Michigan Skills Fund. The chair's recommendation includes $5 million of one-time general fund for a workforce credential program through the Michigan Works agencies that would provide tuition assistance in order to help individuals receive industry-recognized credentials or certificates in high-demand occupations. Item 30, special events and national convention attraction. Chair's recommendation includes $5 million of one-time general fund to to promote Michigan as a destination for special events such as national conventions, conferences, and major sporting events. Item 31, the substitute teacher pool pilot program. The chair's recommendation includes $5 million general fund for the Wonder School organization to develop and deploy a statewide substitute teacher pool pilot program, which would match substitute teachers with job postings from educational providers. Item 32, higher education re-enrollment services. The chair's recommendation includes $4 million of one-time general fund for the re-up program, which provides a coordinated strategy to help individuals re-enroll, individuals who have some amount of post-secondary education experience but who lack a post-secondary education credential. Item number 33, the American Arab Chamber of Commerce. The chair's recommendation includes $3 million of one-time general fund for the Arab American Chamber of Commerce. And number 34, the small business development item. The chair's recommendation includes $3 million of one-time general fund to assist institutions that serve as small business development center regional hosts. Those are primarily exclusively higher educational institutions, universities, and community colleges throughout the state. And that funding would be utilized for supporting operating costs and federal match requirements. You'll note that the items start getting progressively smaller throughout here, but continue on to page 6 and 7. Happy to address any of those that you have specific questions on, but I think I'll move on to item number 55, which is just a technical item to remove other fiscal year 24 one-time appropriations that were included in the budget for the current year, but were not renewed in the chair's recommendation. With that, I'd like to address a couple of boilerplate sections, beginning on page number 10. A couple of new items that were included. The chair concurred with the executive on including language related to the Office of Rural Development. However, the chair's recommendation does include reporting requirements for that offices, whereas the executive did not include those requirements. Section 717, the Community Worker and Economic Transition Office. The chair's recommendation concurs with the executive on including language surrounding that new program. On the reverse page, on page 11, section 718, the chair's recommendation includes new language that would require the Office of Global Michigan to report on the number of individuals that are assisted by the office's programming who identify as a refugee, African American or Black, or LGBTQ+. You'll note then on towards the bottom of the page, the one-time appropriation section start. There are a lot of these items which correspond to the items that were included earlier for the lines in this document. So I'd like to turn your attention to page 14 of this document and highlight one in particular, the repurposing of unexpended work project account balances. The chair's recommendation includes language that would reappropriate $50 million of unexpended work project account balances, with $25 million then being allocated for public safety infrastructure and equipment grants, which would be distributed throughout the state via a competitive grant program for fire departments and law enforcement agencies to purchase equipment or to make physical infrastructure improvements. The remaining $25 million would be allocated for the Pure Michigan program as a one-time support. With that, Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to address any questions the subcommittee may have.
Thank you, Marcus. Any questions from the subcommittee? Representative Beeson.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for your analysis. Can you, the 1034, is that using the work project money that's left over from last budget, or is that the project money that's going to be left over from this budget that's not used?
It would be from, the way that it's currently drafted, it would be from several fiscal years. So it would be from fiscal years 20, 21, and 22. So not from this current year's budget, but from existing work project balances.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions for Marcus? All right. Before we get into amendments on 5502, I just wanted to take a couple moments to thank a few people. And, you know, both the House Leo and Miley budget recommendations before us this morning represent months of hard work from not only my office, but from my fellow committee members. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank the members of this subcommittee for your input and time deliberating together, especially to my vice chairs, Vice Chair Van Workum, for this opportunity to work together in a bipartisan fashion for our hometown in Muskegon. A special thanks is needed for those behind the scenes who have been putting in the long hours and dedication to make our thoughts and views into policy. Marcus Coffin, Perry Zilak, and Noel Benson, I really appreciate all that you have done to get us to this stage of the process. You've been excellent in filling the shoes of our dear friend Viola Bay Wild in this transition process. So I'm greatly appreciative of all of your efforts. Especially, you know, you've been a joy to work with as we've navigated the creation of a new department by the executive. To our Democratic Appropriations team, led by Eli Gagash and Joe Fidowa in Chair Whitwer's office, thank you for being a sounding board and for taking my calls at all hours of the day. To Jason Colella, Parker Dennings, and PJ Petiprin from my office, thank you for your tireless efforts and always attempting to keep me out of trouble. This year's budget process started in October with countless meetings that are still ongoing, but the budgets in front of you this morning represent the massive collective effort of the folks on this subcommittee and the staff mentioned before. It is my belief that it represents a transformational investment in Michigan. And to our countless stakeholders, thank you for your patience. Last year, our Leo budget, I talked about creating a thriving Michigan. This year, we are still seeking a thriving Michigan, but it is time to think differently with our committee being given the privilege to oversee our state's newest department. The overreaching theme across the two budgets this year is simple. Developing the Michigan of tomorrow starts today. The synergy between the Leo and MyLeap budget recommendations before us is quite immense. We are focusing on achieving measurable, attainable results for the state of Michigan through these budgets in terms of workforce development, in terms of college graduation rates, and in terms of protecting the tourism and hospitality industry across our state. We've made sizable and transformational investments in what it means to be a Michigander. This budget before us invests in our children and in our future. That's why I am very proud that the House version of the budget is doubling down on the governor's proposed 10% child care subsidy to 20% increase. We are spending millions of dollars on various educational programs trying to reach our state's goal of 60 by 30. Michigan stands at a moment of great potential. All told, these collective budgets propel Michigan towards the future it seeks by investing today in the development of our people and places for a better tomorrow. So thank you, and with that, I move, I have an amendment for 5501 that makes a technical change. The Reconnect program was transferred obviously into MyLeap in the House version of the budget, but there is a drafting error that left some language behind in boilerplate. So my amendment would simply strike that language. And with that, I move my amendment to House Bill 5502H1. Mr. Clerk, could you please take the roll?
On amendment number 1 to the H1 substitute to House Bill 5502, Chair Snyder.
Yes.
Representatives Martis?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Liberati?
Yes.
Curry?
Yes.
Farhat?
Yes.
McKinney?
Yes.
Van Workum?
Pass.
Bierman?
Pass.
Beeson?
Pass.
Alexander?
Pass.
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 yeas, 4 abstentions. The motion prevails.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. At this time, Representative Van Workum would like to offer amendment 2. Would you like to speak to your amendment?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment speaks to an issue we've seen many times, but certainly recently as it relates to an entrepreneurship program and misuse of appropriate dollars that we do here in this committee. This would create some accountability and using what Director Messer said recently about these misappropriated dollars, and he has set out saying that anything that receives $200,000 or more would receive extra scrutiny and accountability, and if misuse of those dollars is determined or those dollars are used inappropriately, it would be reported to the Attorney General. So using what the director said, this would put some more teeth in it and be the policy for this committee. I move my amendment.
Thank you, Vice Chair Van Workum. Mr. Clerk, would you please take the roll?
On amendment number 2 to the H1 substitute for House Bill 5502, Chair Snyder.
No.
Representatives Martis.
No.
Carter.
No.
Liberati.
No.
Hurry. Farhat.
No.
McKinney.
No.
Van Workum.
Yes.
Meerman.
Yes.
Beeson.
Yes.
Alexander.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, there are 4 yeas, 7 nays. The amendment fails.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Representative Meerman, would you like to speak to your amendment identified as amendment number 3?
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate this. My amendment looks to let the people of Michigan know where their money's going in regards to immigrants. And it would look to see which it would ask the number of individuals served and the number served by county, the number of individuals by immigration status, the average length of subsidy provided for the total amount of subsidies, the number of applicants received by category, the number of landlords participating in the program. I move my motion, my amendment.
Thank you, Representative. Mr. Clerk, would you please take the roll?
On Amendment 3 to the H1 substitute for House Bill 5502, Chair Snyder.
No.
Representatives Martis.
No.
Carter.
No.
Liberati. Hurry.
No.
Farhat.
No.
McKinney.
No.
Van Workum.
Yes.
Merriman.
Yes.
Beeson.
Yes.
Alexander.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, there are 4 yeas, 7 nays. The amendment fails.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Representative Meerman, would you like to speak to amendment identified as amendment number 4?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment is in regards to a CFIS report for possible foreign countries of concern that receive SOAR funding. I move my amendment.
Thank you, Representative. Mr. Clerk, would you please take the roll?
On Amendment 4 to the H1 substitute for House Bill 5502, Chair Snyder.
No.
Representatives Martis.
No.
Carter.
No.
Liberati.
No.
Hurry.
No.
Farhat.
No.
McKinney.
No.
Van Workum.
Yes.
Meerman.
Yes.
Yes.
Alexander.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, there are 4 yeas, 7 nays. The amendment fails.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Representative Alexander, would you like to speak to your amendment identified as amendment number 5?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment that we're proposing just adds a performance-based funding element to the boilerplate as used in this section. It's going to increase the service and limit the waiting time. So I would move this amendment, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Mr. Clerk, would you please take the roll?
On Amendment 5 to the substitute H1 for House Bill 5502, Chair Snyder.
No.
Representatives Martis.
No.
Carter.
No.
Liberati.
No.
Hurry.
No.
Farhat.
No.
McKinney.
No.
Van Workum.
Yes.
Meerman.
Yes.
Beeson.
Yes.
Alexander.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, there are 4 yeas, 7 nays. The amendment fails.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Vice Chair Van Workum, would you like to speak to amendment number, identified as amendment number 6?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This one is similar to the previous one, and as we all heard through different testimonies, it's becoming difficult to understand what kind of return on investment that taxpayers are receiving as it relates to job training programs, job creation programs with the MEDC, as well as throughout the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity. So this amendment goes along with that and looks at the department-wide of really determining what are the metrics of success here so that we can make sure our taxpayer dollars are being used efficiently and effectively. Mr. Chair, I move my amendment.
Thank you, Representative. Mr. Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Amendment number 6 to the H1 substitute for House Bill 5502, Chair Snyder.
No.
Representatives Martis.
No.
Carter.
No.
Liberati.
No.
Hurry.
No.
Farhat.
No.
McKinney.
No.
Van Workum.
Yes.
Meerman.
Yes.
Beeson.
Yes.
Alexander.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, there are 4 yeas, 7 nays. The amendment fails.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Representative Van Workum, would you like to speak to amendment identified as amendment number 7?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kind of the same theme here about understanding how the state is doing and comparative to other states and comparative to the policies and programs we had in the past. Over the past 2 years, we have passed significant legislation related to economic development and various programs, and we want to understand whether these programs are being successful. And to do that, we need to have certain studies done prior years of what kind of businesses were inquiring about doing business here in the state of Michigan compared to now, and whether that is increasing or decreasing. And right now, it does not seem we have those metrics, or those metrics are not being provided to this committee. Mr. Chair, I move my amendment.
Thank you, Representative. Mr. Clerk, would you please take the roll?
On amendment number 7 to the H1 substitute for House Bill 5502, Chair Snyder.
No.
Representatives Martis.
No.
Carter.
No.
Liberati.
No.
Hurry.
No.
Farhat.
No.
McKinney.
No.
Van Workum.
Yes.
Meerman.
Yes.
Beeson.
Yes.
Alexander.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, there are 4 yeas, 7 nays. The amendment fails.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Representative Van Workum, would you like to speak to amendment identified as amendment number 8?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. We do our due diligence on this committee, and as the chair was speaking earlier, a lot of time, effort, and work is put into crafting these bills. This amendment, again, I believe is necessary for good governance and some of the traditions that were done previous legislatures. But last time, after this committee passed its bill, over $330 million was placed into it in conference committee, and then another 432 in unseen grant programs that neither the House, the Senate, or the executive recommended, and then were found in the conference committee. So this amendment would get back to some traditional practices and the use of zero budgeting, and brings the process back in line with Rule 8 of the joint rules of the House and the Senate. I move my amendment.
Thank you, Representative. Mr. Clerk, would you please take the roll?
The question of Amendment 8 for the H1 substitute to House Bill 5502. Chair Snyder.
No.
Representatives Martis.
No.
Carter.
No.
Liberati.
No.
Puri.
No.
Barhat.
No.
McKinney.
No.
Van Workum.
Yes.
Mearman.
Yes.
Beeson.
Yes.
And Alexander.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, there are 4 yeas, 7 nays. The amendment fails.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Representative Beeson, would you like to speak to amendment identified as amendment number 9?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and yes, I would. Brief, it's to strike all associated fund increase in the House recommended for MIOSHA, and I'd like to move my amendment, sir.
Thank you, Representative. Mr. Clerk, would you please take the roll?
On Amendment 9 for the H1 substitute to House Bill 5502. Chair Snyder.
No.
Representatives Martis.
No.
Carter.
No.
Liberati.
No.
Puri.
No.
Barhat.
No.
McKinney.
No.
Van Workum.
Yes.
Mearman.
Yes.
Beeson.
Yes.
Alexander.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, there are 4 yea votes, 7 nay votes. The amendment fails.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Representative Alexander, would you like to speak to amendment identified as amendment number 10?
Yes, I would, and thank you, Mr. Chair. We all recognize the Pure Michigan campaign as a very highly successful campaign throughout basically the world. It's worldwide known. My amendment would increase support for the campaign by an additional $5 million from within the budget. So it's a $0 change, and I would move the amendment.
Thank you, Representative. Mr. Clerk, would you please take the roll?
On Amendment 10 for the H1 substitute for House Bill 5502. Chair Snyder.
No.
Representatives Martis.
No.
Carter.
No.
Liberati.
No.
Puri.
No.
Barhat.
No.
McKinney.
Pass.
Van Workum.
Yes.
Mearman.
Yes.
Beeson.
Yes.
Alexander.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, there are 4 yea votes, 6 nay votes, and 1 abstention. The amendment fails.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Representative Beeson, would you like to speak to amendment number identified as amendment number 11?
Yes, Mr. Chair, and thank you. So this amendment is about UIA, and that's why I'm here. I've actually paid in UIA for 20 years in my business, and this directly affects every small business out there. And the idea of including any funds for the last 5 years so we can see it, we need to make sure that it's in there. I've never lost a UIA claim in my entire year, in my entire life at Beeson's Market, and I do great monitoring. But man, it would be awesome if our UIA would do the same here. So I try to move my amendment.
You try to move your
Wait,
amendment?
I want to move my amendment.
That's a new one. Thank you, Representative. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
On Amendment 11 for the H1 substitute to House Bill 5502. Chair Snyder.
No.
Representatives Martis.
No.
Carter.
No.
Liberati.
No.
Puri.
No.
Barhat.
No.
McKinney.
No.
Van Workum.
Yes.
Mearman.
Yes.
Beeson.
Yes.
Alexander.
Yes.
Chairman, there are 4 yea votes, 7 nay votes. The amendment fails.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And finally, Representative Beeson, would you like to speak to amendment identified as amendment number 12?
Yes, I would like to speak to my amendment. Try to.
Try to?
Yes, I'm just kidding. So this is just common sense, moving a couple of basically new, the mobility and some of the work, economic transfer office. It seems like they're doing the same thing, and the overlap and there's a lot of millions of dollars moving around. Maybe we could put them together and save the taxpayers some money. I want to move my amendment, sir.
Thank you, Representative. Mr. Clerk, would you please take the roll?
On the amendment to H1, the H1 substitute for House Bill 5502, Chair Snyder.
No.
Representatives Martis.
No.
Carter.
No move.
Liberati.
No.
Hurry. No. Farhat.
No.
McKinney.
No.
Van Workum.
Yes.
Merriman.
Yes.
Beeson.
Yes.
Alexander.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, there are 4 yea votes, 7 nay votes. The amendment fails.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. At this time, Vice Chair Martis, we do have one card. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill, John McNamara from the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. And now, Vice Chair Martis moves to report House Bill 5502 H1 as amended to the House Appropriations Committee with recommendation that it pass. Mr. Clerk, would you please take the roll?
On the motion to report the H1 substitute for House Bill 5502 as amended to the House Appropriations Committee with recommendation, Chair Snyder.
Yes.
Representatives Martis.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Liberati.
Yes.
Hurry.
Yes.
Farhat.
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes.
Van Workum.
Pass.
Mearman.
Yes.
Beeson.
Pass.
Alexander.
Pass.
Chairman, you have 7 yea votes, 4 abstentions. The motion prevails.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Seeing no absent members, appreciate everybody being here this morning and kind of concluding phase 1 of our budget process. We did save the best for almost last on this Thursday morning. I hope everybody has a great time going to the NFL draft, so you can go now to Rep. Liberati. But at this time, Representative Carter moves to adjourn. Seeing no objection, the committee stands adjourned.